Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online VGC 20 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. For the last couple of episodes, we've been using this really interesting Series 6 rain team, so we'll be playing one last episode with it today. You can learn more about the team in the description below, and yeah, it's a rental team, and there is a team report in Japanese as well, so feel free to check it out yourselves. For the first game of today's episode, we're going up against a Togedemaru, which is pretty interesting. As well as a bunch of scary Pokemon, I think both Dracovish and Rotom-W can be somewhat difficult for this team to deal with. So, what's really interesting about my opponent's team is that, there doesn't seem to be any, crazy synergies. Mainly because, Hatterene feels like it kind of sticks out. You know, there isn't, hardcore Trick Room on my opponent's team, so... I mean, obviously you can just max and go for G-Max Smites, but... I think the main max threats from my opponent's team are definitely going to be the Hatterene and the Braviary, potentially the Rotom and Urshifu, but to a lesser extent. One thing that's really interesting that I noticed is that Scarf Rotom is picking up recently. It's not a meta trend that I've been super aware of, so something we have to potentially watch out for. I think late game Dracovish, once Rain expires, or even in Rain, is a pretty big threat to us here as well. So let's see what I want to lead with here. Because part of me is wondering, do I go with Seismitoad actually? Because I can substitute and stall out the Dynamax. I could go offensively with Kingdra, but I guess what's part of the problem is that if I Wormwind and Braviary comes out as a lead, that actually might be a problem. So, I think I'm actually going to lead Pelipper, Seismitoad, and maybe just Kingdra Ludi here. Dreadnaught's a little bit tempting, but there is a Urshifu, so I'm a little bit less convinced to bring it, but yeah. This will be our last episode with the Rain team, so I hope everyone has enjoyed so far. If you do enjoy Road Train, please show your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. Question of the day, by the way, I want to know what your favorite Pokemon soundtrack is. It can be an individual song, or it can be a soundtrack from an entire game. Personally, I think the Primal Dialga theme from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is definitely one of my favorite ones. But there are a lot up there, including kind of all of the Gen 3 and Gen 4 soundtracks. Honestly, all the O-Gen soundtracks have so much nostalgia for me, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Gonna be Togedemaru and Urshifu. I could see a double up coming onto the Pelipper right now, which would deny me a Tailwind, but I don't really need Tailwind, do I? I kind of don't mind just going for Tailwind and a Muddy Water here, honestly. I feel like Seismitoad's actually in a pretty good spot offensively, oddly enough. I could have Dynamaxed Seismitoad as well, but I think Togedemaru is going to be sturdy here. Okay, well, they don't protect or switch out, or fake out, which is really interesting. So I get a ton of damage off with Muddy Water to start the game. It's just going to be Wicked Blow coming out. And it went before Togedemaru, which makes me think it's Scarf Urshifu, but... let's see. I'm guessing Togedemaru is just going to double up onto that slot, yeah. I feel like that's fine, though, right? I get a knockout, and I get the Rain, and a free switch in. And there wasn't anything I was going to switch out in that position, either. So... we have Muddy Water on everything. I can go into either of these and set up a substitute while I Muddy Water right now. The only downside is if I miss. Of course, I could just double attack, but setting up a sub is actually kind of tempting right now. What do they have in the back? Braviary, Hatterene. The question is whether I want Kingdra or Ludicolo out right now. And I think I prefer the Ludicolo, because I like the idea of a Kingdra late game sweep. So the thing here is risk versus reward wise, it might be better to just go for the safe targets here. Like Ice Beam, Earth Power. I guess I don't really need to sub up right now, right? But a sub would be really nice, honestly. Especially against the potential Dracovish there in the back. I don't think we should risk it, though. But I don't know if Ice Beam KOs in this range. I feel like it should. I guess that's the problem if it doesn't KO. So then Kingdra might have been better, because then I could have gone Hurricane Earth Power. I'm going for Muddy Water sub here. Let's see if they switch out. I think they'll probably just stay in with both. Oh, they go for Sucker Punch. Interesting. Okay. Looks like we are going to miss into... I'm not sure which one that was. So that's the downside of going for Muddy Water, right? But we hit the Togedemaru, so that's fine, honestly. So Togedemaru is just slower than the Urshifu, which is interesting. Not something I would have expected. I get the sub up. Yeah, like I said, I think it might have been more consistent to just bring out Kingdra because we had such a good early lead that we pick up a double KO, and then we have multiple turns of Rain to work with while Dynamaxed. So I can't help but think I've misplayed this game just slightly. We're still in a good position, but I think I could have played it better. That being said, if, like, Muddy Water... The risk of missing Muddy Water there is that I could also get nuzzled into the Ludicolo, I guess. So, yeah. I think if I were to replay that, I'd bring out Kingdra instead. I just got really greedy and wanting to get a free sub up. But it's not like Seismitoad would substitute super strong here anyway. But at least what I can do this next turn is just protect the Ludicolo to bypass a Sucker Punch and then just go for another Muddy Water as Dracovish comes out, which is fine given that I have Kingdra in the back. 3 turns of Rain left. So, yeah, I'm just going to protect here and go for a Muddy Water. But I can't help but think if I brought out Kingdra, I'd be in a better position. Because I wouldn't have risked a miss there. I could have picked up a double KO very consistently. There's Sucker Punch, as expected. Looks like Muddy Water will double connect this time around. And we've seen that this team obviously has subpar accuracy with a lot of the attacks, and Muddy Water is only base 85, so it's not great. Especially when you're using it, obviously, on both Pokemon over the course of multiple turns. Vicious Wren comes out, that's fine. I mean, it's a 3v2 right now. Dracovishes are often going to be choiced, so I can probably double up onto that with the Leaf Storm Earth Power for a knockout and then force this to be a 2v1 game. Question is what my opponent has in the back. But I think we'll have extra turns of Dynamax to work with, which is good. Ultimately, the Seismitoad was actually really... I'm expecting Braviary here, but let's see. Oh, it's Rotom! Wow. That's, I think, really good for us to see, honestly. 2 turns of Rain left. I don't want to max, though, and I think maxing Kingdra against this Rotom is fine, so I honestly just want to go for Leaf Storm here and Earth Power to pick up the knockout onto the Dracovish and then bring out Kingdra. Because I could also see Rotom protecting here, right? Even if you're Scarf Rotom, that's fine. I feel like my opponent just didn't really have very much for Rain, and I do think this team is pretty matchup-oriented, where because it's a very hard Rain team, you are sometimes going to run into just super tough counters, right? Lapras, Ferrothorn, Manual Sun, to name a few. So I think Rotom maxes here and you just max Lightning, but then Kingdra can come out and we get, you know, we can stall out the max through, like, Protect, Sub, and then I only have one more turn of max left. So I could have gone Max Overgrowth here, but I'd rather just KO the Dracovish and force this to be a 2v1. But I guess the downside is if we miss Leaf Storm, I guess Vicious Wren actually KOs us. Okay, but no Protect and we don't miss Leaf Storm. So that's good, and Earth Power should finish that off. Nice. Seismitoad was actually amazing for us as a lead here. I didn't expect it to have so much impact, honestly. But it was able to just stick around, do a fair amount of damage with the Muddy Waters, especially against my opponent's lead. And is never in the immediate threat of, you know, getting KO'd. So Max Lightning comes out, but that's fine. Ludi's going to go down, but now I get a free switch into Kingdra. And Kingdra's pretty good against Rotom, right? Like, I could have maxed the Ludicolo there, but if it's Life Orb Rotom, it probably gets knocked out anyway. I don't think Max Overgrowth KOs the Rotom, and then Vicious Wren KOs the Seismitoad. However, I still think I did not play this game super optimally, and it was actually Life Orb Tom, so that's exactly why I went for that play. And the reason why I say I don't think I played this super optimally is because I felt like I didn't need to rely on missing attacks. So even though we're in a favorable position right now, can't say I'm super happy about how I played this. We bring out Kingdra, though. Let's see. There's only one more turn of Rain, but we should outspeed Rotom anyway. I think I'm just going to substitute with Seismitoad. I could max Guard. I think Max Wormwind is fine as well. I mean, Max Lightning shouldn't KO us, to be honest, so I think we can just Max Wormwind into Sludge Bomb. That should be put the Rotom in KO range. I guess the only reason I'd want to Max Guard here is to prevent a Max Lightning critical hit, but even I wouldn't think a critical hit KOs, because it's not like Rotom gets the Electric Terrain boost right now, because it's not grounded. So, let's see. Yeah, ultimately, though, I'm pretty happy about the Pokemon choice here. I do think, like, this is kind of the matchup that you want with this team, right? Not great natural weather control. Not many max moves that can really control the weather as well. Wow, that does so much damage by itself. Yeah, Kingdra's honestly a pretty dang good sweeper, but that's why you often want to stall out your opponent's Dynamax first. Okay, Sludge Bomb gets good damage, and it's actually Max Darkness, interesting, into Seismitoad. Okay. That makes sense. You get the special defense drop. Though I can't help but think just Geysering for a KO there would have been better. I'm assuming that would knock out. But now Rotom's just in KO range from pretty much everything. Rain is gone, but that shouldn't really matter here. because either attack should knock out the Rotom at this point. So we can just pretty easily Max More win and Sludge Bomb, and there's no way Rotom can really get out of this. I think with the Life Orb damage, a Sludge Bomb plus Life Orb should definitely pick up the KO, so even if you crit Max Lightning into Kingdra, we should be good. So, yeah. This is just a classic example of Rain having so much early momentum because you're able to just outspeed your opponent's team. So I would say there are a couple things that give this team trouble. Obviously, bulky waters, bulky grass types can be a little bit tough, depending on what the grass type is. And then different means of speed control, right? Like Talonflame plus something that's faster than the Rain Sweepers can be a little bit problematic. Early game Fake Out can be rough because Pelipper doesn't have Protect. Screens can be pretty difficult, especially if you have a Light Clay, because it just takes a very long time to break through. And what this team typically wants to do is pick up the knockouts while you have time to. And that's basically, you know, stalling out your opponent's Dynamax. But if screens are up, then even max moves won't KO your opponent's Pokemon often, even if they're non-Dynamaxed. So, you know, there are definitely a lot of counters to this as well, and that was an example of us running into a more favorable matchup. But I think, you know, having practiced with this team a bunch and played with it a bunch, it can look really, really good, but it can also look rough when you're running into teams that have just, like, super good counters. Ferrothorn is something, you know, that's super common, and without a Fire-type attack on this team, it can be a little difficult to play around. Escavalier is not a bad answer against Ferrothorn often, but you'd have to get multiple Sword Stances off. We're up against another Baraskewda, and I swear my win rate against Baraskewda is like 20%. It's really bad. So this is interesting because you have some of the fastest Pokemon possible in Talonflame, Baraskewda, and to some extent, I mean, Urshifu's not super fast, but it's, you know, got a good speed tier. And then you've got Chandelure, Clef, and the Hatterene. So interesting to see some of the Hatterenes in team preview here. I don't know. I mean, Baraskewdas are typically Propeller Tail, but the thing is, it's going to just do so much damage in the rain. Like, if they Tailwind and lead Talonflame Baraskewda, like, how do I even beat the Baraskewda? I think it might have to be Ludicolo because I've got the Koba Berry, so at least I can handle the Talonflame. And I guess I can Tailwind with my own Pelipper. Oh, my goodness. I'm really scared about Baraskewda here. Baraskewda Clef could be really interesting as well. Like, I'm opting for Ludi Pelly here because I just don't see what else I can lead. What if I led Pelly Dreadnought and like Rock Slide Tailwind turn 1? They Tailwind. No, I don't think that really works. Actually, maybe it does. Maybe I need to conserve Ludi in the back. Pelipper, Dreadnought, Ludi, and just Ludi Kingdra, I think. I mean, they don't have great water resist outside of Dreadnought. I think Escavalier could actually be really interesting here. But I feel like my opponent's going to go with the faster mode with Talonflame and the Baraskewda. But yeah, I feel like every time we go against Baraskewda, we get wrecked. So let's see if we can get a win here against it. It's a really interesting Pokemon. You know, we played it a couple of episodes ago where it Dynamaxed in front of us and just did like so much damage with the max moves. So gotta watch out for that. Wow, Chandelure Clefairy. Okay, did not expect that. I guess it's not great, right? Because this is definitely just going to be a follow me Trick Room into Hatterene. So I should have brought Escavalier. Like, I might have lost this just by not bringing Escavalier, honestly. Unless we flinch Chandelure turn 1. Or they don't follow me for some reason, but that would be really bizarre. Because, like, if I had Escavalier, what I could do is just Rock Slide U-turn turn 1, go into Escavalier, and I've got the berry, so I can survive any attack. So I can probably pick up a knockout and a half here. Like, KO the Clefairy and the Chandelure. Like, I'm just going to Skull Chandelure and Rock Slide here, but the reality is I think it's going to be Follow Me Trick Room here. I really thought they'd go with Talonflame Baraskewda, honestly. But I guess at least it's better to have Dreadnought out here than Ludicolo. However, I do think... Oh! Okay. That's not the Trick Room option I was anticipating. At all. Interesting. I feel like that's... I mean, they're maxing a Chandelure against the Rain team with 4 Water-type Pokemon, so... I feel like this is okay? Follow me? Okay. I mean... Let's see how much we do. Okay, Rockslide actually miraculously connects on both. Okay, Chandelure takes that pretty well. Is it, like, policy here? Ah, very interesting. Okay. And we're faster than the Chandelure, which is actually really good to note. Because now that means if I bring in Kingdra... And there's Max Overgrowth. If I bring in Kingdra, I should be able to just Muddy Water and Scald. I guess the question is whether that's a knockout or not. I mean, alternatively, I could just, like, Protect Scald, right? Doesn't that seem fine, too? But then they could bring in Chandelure, Talonflame, and just click Tailwind, I guess. But then we'd still outspeed, right? I fear that, one, Clefairy survives a Muddy Water. Muddy Water into Scald? I mean, if... I'm bringing out Kingdra here. I don't know whether I want a Muddy Water Scald here or Protect Tailwind. Or, sorry, Protect Scald. Do I even want to max here? No, if I Protect Scald and you get that free switch into Talonflame, that could be a problem, right? Because then if you Phantasm, you get a defense drop, and then Talonflame can Brave Bird into Kingdra potentially for a KO. So I think here I'm just going to go Scald Muddy Water. I think Muddy Water KOs Clefairy, so if you don't Protect, then Scald should knock out the Chandelure. And us outspeeding Chandelure is really nice here, too. But I think if Clefairy protects and you have Friend Guard up, then Chandelure maybe survives, and that could be a problem. However, then I could bring in Ludicolo and just go Muddy Water Scald again. The only downside is I might risk missing Muddy Waters. But really interesting to see a weakness policy Chandelure next to Follow Me Clef. I definitely thought Baraskewda would be the threat here. But Clef just goes for Follow Me, which is what we want to see. So if we don't miss the Muddy Waters, I think we should be good here. And somehow I did not jinx myself. Very nice. Okay. Get an accuracy drop, not that that really matters, because it's maxed. Plus, Pelipper should just KO it with Scald now that we know we're faster, unless it's a speed tie somehow. But, yeah. Nice. I don't know, I really feel like Baraskewda would have been the right approach here, but I guess they wanted to counter Ludicolo. I wonder if they had Trick Room, because I feel like if they had Trick Room... Oh, I guess they were Policy, but actually that Rock Slide did less than 50% anyway, right? So they definitely could have gotten Trick Room up. I thought they led Chandelure Clef with Hatterene in the back, and the goal was to just sweep through with Hatterene under Trick Room, honestly. Okay, Urshifu. And, yeah, so there's the Baraskewda. I think we outspeed Urshifu after, Airstream. So, like, I want to just Airstream Hurricane into Baraskewda. Or, sorry, into Urshifu. That should KO. I mean, my opponent doesn't have a max to play with, and I still have my max. And so, I think often with this team, if you can stall out your opponent's max, and you only lose one Pokemon, you're going to be in really good shape. But, I don't know. I feel like the approach I was most scared of from my opponent was like Talonflame, Baraskewda, Clef, and maybe Urshifu. I felt like Baraskewda could have been a really strong Dynamax start, especially if you have that Prio Tailwind. But I guess the thing about seeing this team in team preview is you have to worry about potential fake outs from my end, right? Even though I know I don't have fake out on Ludicolo, my opponent doesn't know that. So that might dissuade them from just leading Talonflame plus whatnot, because they know I could potentially fake out into that slot. So I'm maxing Kingdra here just because I don't want to... I want that speed boost. I guess Baraskewda maybe still outspeeds me. I mean, it probably should. It's what, like base 142? But it's Sash Urshifu, so we should outspeed that now. To be honest, I still don't know Baraskewda's full move pool here, so I'm curious on what it's going to go for. But with Ludicolo in the back, Leafstorm will obviously just one-shot the Baraskewda. Okay, he just goes for Poison Jab, that's fine. Pretty good damage though, around 50%. But yeah, we're faster after the speed boost, so we knock the Urshifu out. I mean, Pelipper is honestly a pretty dang good sweeper in this format. And this team uses Pelipper, I feel like, more offensively than usual. Most Pelippers run Scald, Hurricane, Tailwind, but I feel like this team especially, like, relies on Pelipper's damage output a little bit more than you normally anticipate. So we can just Hurricane and Wormwind here. Ultimately, I think, you know, once again, this is what happens when there's not much to stop the rain. You really get to take full control with Kingdra, with the Dreadnought, with the Ludicolo and whatnot, which is great. But I think, you know, we've been fortunate to not really run into too many manual Dynamax moves that can change the weather, like Max Flare, Max Rockfall, Max Hailstorm. Any of those often can cause some problems, especially Hailstorm. Because Hailstorm into Pelipper can knock it out through the Sash, because then the Hail just finishes it off often. So that's always pretty scary. But we've had favorable matchups for the first two games. This next one's really interesting because there's a Tentacruel as well as a Cole. So the question is, do you really bring Cole into this matchup? Ferrothorn is so tough, honestly, that I always feel compelled to bring both the Dreadnought and the Escavalier. No, you could just lead Primarina Cole, but I could Tailwind. But they could Trick Room. I don't have Max Quake on this thing. And with Cole, you should normally be faster than, like, Excadrill under Sand, so that means you should be faster than everything else that I have. But I could set up Tailwind, obviously. Huh, so what do I lead? I really want to go Ludi. Oh, they can just Flare turn 1, though, right? Instead of Volcalith. Actually, Ludi would probably survive a Volcalith, right? So, Ludi. Like, the Seismitoad is really interesting here. But it would be only for the... I guess it kind of helps against Primarina, too. But I also need Ludi for the Primarina potentially as a Dynamax threat. So, Ludi... Honestly, I guess Dreadnought Escavalier doesn't feel great. I don't think Kingdra is ever right here, but Seismitoad could definitely put in some work. It's just Ferrothorn, I think, is one of the toughest Pokemon to play around with this team because you don't have any way to really knock it out other than Bandit Superpower. And then maybe special attack, like Max Airstream from Kingdra, and then Hurricane from the Pelipper, and then obviously Escavalier. Sneasel Dusclops. Okay, that's super interesting. Sneasel Dusclops. I mean, this screams Trick Room, right? So this makes me want to pivot out into Escavalier turn 1. Like, I'm honestly leaning towards just hard switching here into Escavalier, because it's not in any threat of taking damage. I'm just going for Muddy Water. This is not the lead I would have ever expected, because, like, this lead does no damage, and so you're relying on everything in the back to pull something off. And, like, Sneasel is kind of counterintuitive to what Dusclops wants to do, because it wants to set up Trick Room. So let's see. Okay, it just goes for Fake Out. Yep, onto Pelly, that's fine. That's why we switch it out instead of going for a U-turn, and I get a Muddy Water off. So, I mean, it's a good start to the game for sure, right? Because I can SD next turn with the Escavalier at relative low cost. Get a nice crit as well, and an accuracy drop, so RNG in our favor today. Trick Room goes up, but I don't think that's really too much of a problem. Because what do you do now, right? Like, I can just SD. You know what's really interesting? Intentionally not KOing Sneasel to waste a turn in my opponent's Trick Room. That could be interesting. I really like SDing here. The thing is that Sneasel shouldn't really be able to do very much damage here. Really shouldn't. So I honestly want to SD and switch out into Dreadnought, because then I have a Banded Liquidation into Dusclops. I think switching Sneasel here is really risky. And yeah, they stay in. Because, like, you don't want anything to come in and take a Muddy Water, or have me make a read and target that slot. So, like, now, what's really interesting is this next turn I can just go Iron Head into Sneasel, Liquidation into Dusclops. They're just going to Pain Split, which is fine. We'll take a bit of damage, but it's not that big, all things considered. And they're just going to offer Triple Axle. We actually dodged on the first hit. Although, you know, obviously, we would have taken it fine here. Man, I want to go for a second Swords Dance here. Is that too greedy? Wait, we have, we have Razor Shell. So if Cole comes in, we can kind of wreck that. I don't know, I really want to go for a second Swords Dance here. But the alternative play is to just Iron Head, Sneasel, Banded Liquidation into Dusclops. I wonder if that KOs. I really wonder. I'm going to play a little bit more offensively here, because I could also see the Sneasel actually switching out. And I'm going to double onto that slot, because I don't think it has Protect. And if it switches out, we can punish that switch heavily, but it doesn't switch. This is why I was surprised by this lead. I don't know, maybe I could have punished it a little bit more. Question is whether Dusclops has Will-O-Wisp here or not. If not, it's in a lot of trouble, I think. Oh, it's reversing the Trick Room? That's what it looks like? We get a defense drop. That might be huge, because Liquidation looked like a 2-hit KO there, but it was close. But now we'll obviously KO. Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't go for a second Swords Dance there, I guess. But, yeah, like, that's why Sneasel Dusclops really caught me off guard as a lead. Okay, Primarina comes in. Maybe I could have KO'd Dusclops there, then. Nice play to reverse the Trick Room, for sure. I'm just going to Iron Head into the Primarina. You know what, actually? Because what could be problematic is if Dusclops switches out into Ferrothorn, which I think you brought in this matchup, right? And then you KO the Escavalier. One question I wonder is whether Max Steel Spike, Liquidation, and +2 Max Steel Spike KOs Primarina. Is it weird that I'm considering that? Yeah, I think it's weird. I'm gonna go into Ludi here, and Liquidation into Dusclops. As much as it pains me to switch out something with boosts, I think it's the right play. I didn't expect the Trick Room reversal. That was really smart. I could have doubled up onto Dusclops for a KO, and then a Escavalier probably could have swept under Trick Room. But I think with Ludi out now, we can just max next turn and Overgrowth, and then Protect on the last turn to stall up Primarina's max turn. Unless they, like, Starfall this, but I think it should be a Geyser into the Ludi slot. Because you have to respect the threat of Escavalier Dynamaxing, right? So let's see. They stay in with the Dusclops, which is interesting, so that should be gone now. In the end, what, it had an accuracy drop, defense drop. Yeah, they go for Geyser. I mean, it might be into Dreadnought, but it goes into Ludi. Okay, good. Perfect. Yeah, so I mean, as much as I don't want to switch out something at +2 attack, like, I talked about gambling and, like, Dynamaxing the Escavalier there, but, like, if you're a Life Orb with a Rain being out, that just seems like a really bad play on my end. So Ferrothorn comes in, that's fine by me. I think what I want to do here is Protect. And, ooh, how many turns of Rain are up, actually? There's only one turn of Rain left. Because I want to conserve the Superpower. Max. Good max here. I think we want to conserve Superpower. Yeah, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to Protect this turn and switch out into the Escavalier, because then I can switch Escavalier back out into Pelipper next turn. This game still isn't won yet, because this is the exact problem of playing against the Ferrothorn in the late game. Like, there's not that much damage, and we brought our best tools to deal with it, too. And I guess Kingdra could have been better, but Kingdra's weaker to the Primarina. Okay, they Starfall. Nice. Perfect. I don't even know if I want to max the Ludi then. But let's see if it's Iron Defense, because if it starts Iron Defensing up, this thing can still maybe cause some late game problems for us. It just goes for knockoff. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind that. Rain is gone now. I mean, I don't really need the Rain right now either, to be honest. But I think we just stall out Primarina's max, so let's switch Ludi out into Pelipper now. I just don't want to Overgrowth because Ferrothorn here probably has Power Whip, so it can Power Whip into the Ludi, and that would be bad. So I like the idea of going out into Pelipper right now, and I am going to go for a Mega Horn, because if Ferro doesn't Iron Defense and if Primarina doesn't target it, that's a lot of damage off. But I'm doing the classic stall out your opponent's Dynamax kind of strategy here. Now what's interesting is that Ludi's already taken a lot of damage, so I'm probably going to have to Dynamax that regardless, which is a little unfortunate. But they offer Starfall, which is what we want to see, and it goes into Pelipper. Okay, perfect. So we were able to bait out the attacks, but we've taken a lot of damage, right? Like, I definitely have to acknowledge that. Let's see if it's Iron Defense. We get the Mega Horn off first, though, which is nice. Oh, that's so much damage. That's huge. Wow. At +2 attack, we would have just KO'd that. That's nuts. What? SD. Okay. Well, that's a first. But I think it being more offensive here actually helps us very much. Because now I can just go for a Tailwind. Wait, do I even need it? Why would I Tailwind here? Yeah, I'm already faster with what I have in the back. There's no need to Tailwind, right? I mean, Superpower should just KO the Ferrothorn at this point, so yeah, I think we Hurricane into Primarina for chip damage and Iron Head. Because then the Ludi can just max in Overgrowth into Primarina. Okay, we get the Hurricane off. Solid damage there. It goes for Gleam, which actually is not even going to KO the Escavalier. So this is why we needed to bring Escavalier into this matchup. Okay, get the Iron Head off. I wonder if... That's almost just a KO. Nice. Swords Dance Ferrothorn, not something I've really seen before. Presumably Power Whip and a Steel type attack then as the last two moves. But now I can just bring in Ludi and Dreadnought, and we don't really need to max here, I guess. But maxing is more consistent so that we don't miss the Overgrowth. Because we can miss Leaf Storm. And that's the only way we have a 100% win. Even if you're Chopo Pharaoh. Actually, with Chopo, maybe you survive. I'm not sure about that. But, yeah, it's just max Overgrowth and Superpower. Alright, not bad. It is our last episode with this team, so I'll play one more. Once again, I do think we've run into really favorable matchups because I was playing some games earlier in practice, and I think that, like, there are some matchups that feel very difficult to win. Pharaoh's actually one of them, but, it depends on the Ferrothorn set, and this one being a Swords Dance set that was a little bit more manageable, I would say. Whereas Iron Defense, Body Press can be kind of tough, especially if you add Redirection to the mix, like Clefairy. Curious on the item on Primarina, because it didn't look like AV. Oh, they go for Aqua Jet. Okay, how much does that do? Not enough is the answer. So we get the Banded Superpower, which is why I brought the Dreadnought off in the first place, and Overgrowth to finish things off. So ultimately, I do think the lead was really interesting for my opponent's end, because it was like, if you set up Trick Room, then, I was able to... That's the problem with, like... and that, with setting up Trick Room, it's often really difficult, because if you don't get that free switch into your Trick Room sweepers, and whatever you're using to help set up Trick Room is passive, it's just kind of dead weight. Which is why, like, the main thing that I think is a good lesson to take away from this one is not necessarily picking up a free knockout to give your opponent a free switch in. Which is why I switched out Dreadnought in the position that I did. But we definitely got lucky. We had that defense drop, which I think might have made a difference, because maybe Dusclops actually could have taken another liquidation if not. And the accuracy drop kind of put on early pressure as well. So, yeah. Well, play one more game here. Otherwise, I think, yeah, we've definitely run into quite favorable matchups in the last couple of games. And I think I already listed out a couple of things that, this team struggles against. Ferrothorn's one of them, but that one was not as scary of a set. And we haven't really run into manual weather to override our rain, so we've basically had full weather control in these last 3 matches, which is a really, really big deal. Because this team can falter if you're able to outspeed the Pokemon before they can move. Especially because a lot of the Pokemon don't have Protect, and they're relatively frail as well. And so, because this team often relies on not Dynamaxing until the late game, if you can outspeed them and just pick up knockouts on the non-max mons, that's a big deal. So this is interesting, right? Because this team has a lot of those things that I was talking about that can be kind of rough to play around in the Tailwind with Talonflame, the screens with Grimmsnarl. Amoonguss is somewhat tricky as well, but what is interesting is that, like, that team looks like screams like Terrakion Dynamax, and Terrakion Max into this team looks pretty rough. One thing I have to be worried about is, or 2 things, actually a bunch of things here, so Talonflame can go for Tailwind and Terrakion can Rockfall, which will obviously set up the Sandstorm, and that can be tough. I still think I'd lead Pelipper. What if, no, I was gonna say, what if I switched in Pelipper, but I don't like that too much. See, what I'm thinking is Pelipper Ludi, because what that allows me to do is Tailwind Geyser turn 1. If I match their Tailwind and I have the Rain up, that's very advantageous for us. So Peli Ludi, I think Kingdra and a Scavalier is the route I want to go with here. See, the Seismitoad is interesting, but I don't know. The Scavalier's pretty solid here, especially with the Occaberry. There's not much to, like, one-hit KO it. So let's see. Grimmsnarl can be pretty tough though, right? Because if it sets up, maybe I needed to lead a Scavalier actually, especially because I had Occaberry. I could have led it against the Terrakion and Talonflame lead if that came out. Scavalier actually might have been a really solid lead here now that I think about it. Grimmsnarl Urshifu, okay. So this is the problem. Grimmsnarl, I think, like Prankster Screens, Prankster Thunderwave, Prankster Sunny Wave, all of those things can be kind of tough to play around. I don't have Fake Out here, unfortunately, but my opponent might think that I do. That could maybe work in our favor. Got a Scavalier in the back. I don't know if I want to Dynamax turn 1 here, especially because it's like Water Urshifu, right? Yeah, I don't think we Dynamax yet. I think we save our Dynamax. They might just double up. Oh, I don't even think you can KO Pelipper with a double up, though. I like the idea of Tailwinding just in case Thunder Wave comes out. So I'm just going to Muddy Water and Tailwind turn 1. Because that means I still outspeed you. But he just goes for Fake Out onto Pelipper. Okay. Which makes me think maybe Surging Strikes is going out. And perhaps that's enough for a KO. But you can also run Thunder Punch on Urshifu. Like, that's not completely crazy either. Yeah, he had it. Okay. That makes this really interesting then. Should I have switched out then is a big question. Because now you can T-Wave into the Ludi. If you have it. I guess we can go Kingdra though and double up onto Urshifu. I could also, like, I could make a hard read into saying you're going to T-Wave a specific slot, but I like the idea of just Hurricane and Leaf Storm. I guess then Grimmsnarl is still out on the field, though. Like, maybe I should KO. Oh, wow. That, I didn't expect that. They don't even go for a T-Wave on Grimmsnarl. Maybe, or screens? So maybe it's offensive? Does Leaf Storm one-shot here? I don't think it does, unfortunately. Oh, it's going to Spirit Break into Kingdra, isn't it? Muddy Water would have finished it off there, but I didn't want to risk a miss. Okay, we survive, though, but... I mean, I guess that's better than Thunder Wave. It's just frustrating because Muddy Water would have finished up the deal. And now I'm at -1 special attack with Kingdra, -2 on the Ludi, and Talonflame maybe comes out. Okay, it's Sylveon. I think you Sucker Punch here. So I'm just going to Protect. I mean, this is where Escavalier comes in for us, right? Protect, switch out an Escavalier. The next turn, go Muddy Water, Dynamax, Steel Spike. But I think if that Muddy Water KO'd, we'd be in really good shape. It's still, like, far from over, but... I don't know if I should have risked it there. They switch out. I wonder if it's Quick Attack coming out here then. And it's a Amoonguss, so this is phenomenal positioning for Escavalier. And then Quick Attack. Wow, okay. That's huge. I think we just sack the Kingdra here. Like, I'm just going to Hurricane and... Hurricane, Hurricane, Hurricane. I think, if you're my opponent, I mean, I feel like your play might be to max, like, Dynamax and Flare into the... Flare into us right now. So actually, I'm going to Muddy Water, because, like, Amoonguss is not a threat right now. Muddy Water, Max, and Steel Spike. Because if we KO Sylveon, we win the game. Amoonguss and Grimmsnarl are so passive, they don't do any damage. And they're not maxing Sylveon, which is really interesting. This is the upside of this team, right? Like, and maybe one of the downsides of my opponent's team, where, like, the only Pokemon that feels like is viable to Dynamax is that Terrakion. Okay, so we max Escavalier. Maybe Protect. Okay, so I could have gone for the Hurricane there, but I mean, whatever, like, I guess they Spore us. The thing is, I still do damage with Steel Spike. Oh, wait, no, I'll just KO myself through... Oh, I actually wanted that to hit, because now... Oh, they just Giga Drain. Okay, that's fine then. Because if you Spore there, it's actually really interesting. But we have the Aqua Berry. Rain is still up, so I feel like we're in pretty good shape, because I feel like you have to Dynamax the Sylveon. Oh my goodness. That would have one-shot Max Sylveon. Oh, jeez. Are you Policy by any chance? No. Okay. I mean... There's one more turn of Rain left. I honestly want to Protect here in Steel Spike. Yeah, because I feel like Amoonguss should not be able to do any damage into Escavalier. I don't think there's any point in attacking with Ludicolo here. At best, I get an Ice Beam off. If I had Fake Out, I'd probably... I don't know. I don't even think... Like Amoonguss can't touch Escavalier. So all Escavalier needs to do... They switch out. Should I have covered for that? I see what they're going for. I mean, they stalled on my Rain. I think they're going for a late game Sylveon Max. Then... Oh, that's actually really smart. Maybe my play there was to just Muddy Water and Steel Spike into the Amoonguss. I don't know if that'd be a KO, but I think what you do now is you max guard Sylveon. You have to max guard it, right? But here's the interesting thing. I can max Geyser. Oh, and I've got max Flutterby to lower special attack. What I'm worried about now is, like, they have max Flare, right? Wow, that was actually a really smart play. If they, I mean, they should have max Flare too. You have to max guard Sylveon here, I think. But the thing is that they might just max Flare, not thinking about me having Aqua Berry here. The play I want to go for here, because I think we should survive with the Aqua, is Muddy Water and max Geyser into Amoonguss to guarantee that I have Rain Up for the subsequent turns. The Sylveon max guard here, because I want Steel Spike into that is the obvious play. But the thing is, if I Steel Spike into that as it max guards, I'm doomed next turn. I think if I'm my it's tough because I don't know if they're thinking about the Aqua Berry option, but that was a really good switch out actually. I thought we kind of had this in the bag with the Scavalier, but I think it would have been smarter to have the turn I protected with Ludi. Maybe I could have just Muddy Watered and Steel Spiked instead. I think that would have been better to cover for the switch out option, which I just didn't think about at all. They don't max guard. Yeah, I don't think they were expecting the Aqua here. Okay, is it doomed? The thing is, if they max guard, wow, that didn't do anything. We would have even survived without an Aqua Berry. I'm sure it's just Giga Drain, right? It's just if they max guard as I Steel Spike into that slot, then I think I lose. But actually, no, given that Max Flare doesn't even 2-hit KO, I mean, doesn't KO with us, then yeah, I think the better play would have been to just have attacked. Alright, lesson learned. I didn't know that calc super well. And I think we can still win this for sure in the position that we're in right now. It's just going to be a lot closer than it needed to be. I don't think Leaf Storm KOs here into Sylveon. There's no way. So I think we have to Muddy Water into Leaf Storm. And I'm just going to Iron Head here. But if I just Steel Spike last turn, this would have been over. I don't even think that's a 2-hit KO on Sylveon. Okay, let's see if this knocks out in Rain. It does. I feel like I tossed this then. That was a really smart play with Sylveon. I should have just, I don't know, I should have just Steel Spike. I had like a gut feeling, but the thing is, if I call that incorrectly, I feel like I outright lose, whereas this is still winnable. Let's see how much Giga's doing here. 117 down to 8. Actually, no, it's not winnable anymore, right? Because I have to, well, I could protect, I guess, and then they could miss. That was really well played. Like, hats off to them, because they played perfectly in what is a really bad matchup for them, and I kind of tossed this. Which I'm super angry at myself for, because the Scavalier is so good here, too. I wouldn't call that play a misplay, once again, because I think if Sylveon max guards there as we Steel Spike and we don't get the Rain Up, we're in a lot of trouble. But then, after seeing that damage calc, I think we'd actually would have survived the Flare because of the Aqua. So now that I know that, then I guess it was a misplay. Yeah, I mean, I can protect here, and I think we have to. But I think the Ludi is, or sorry, the Amoonguss is doing too much damage to us with Giga Drain. But I'm not going to give up until it's over. Oh, they actually max guarded. That's interesting. Okay, well, they wasted their opportunity to get some damage through Protect. I wonder if Ice Beam KOs Sylveon from this range. Honestly, don't think so. I don't think I can Leaf Storm, though. This is... We got a bunch of... Oh, it's only one accuracy drop. I can't freeze. Yeah, I'm just gonna Ice Beam. They went for Quick Attack, which we dodge. Huh, them going for Quick Attack means... Ice Beam misses the KO by 1. Oh, but we dodged from the Amoonguss too! Wait, I forgot this had an accuracy drop as well. Okay, hold on. I mean, I'm gonna Protect here to scout out for a Protect on their end. They played this really well, though. I should have capitalized more off my lead. Like, as soon as we had Sylveon, Escavalier maxed in front of the Sylveon, there was no need to Protect on the Ludi in that turn, I think. I should have just pulled it, like got more offensive and just Ice Beamed the Amoonguss in that position. I was overly cautious for no reason there. They're just going to punish me. Okay. I think they're going to keep clicking Quick Attack, so I'm actually just going to Ice Beam Amoonguss and hope that's a 2-hit KO. Oh my goodness, is this really happening? They deserve to win this, honestly. Ice Beam does look pretty close to a 2-hit KO. But that one is going to connect, okay. They deserve to win this. Like, they played so well in this endgame. And that's the thing, right? You can have the best matchup in the world, but you have to capitalize and play it correctly. And I made some minor mistakes, like, kind of added up. Wonder if we would have had this if the Ice Beam KO'd the Sylveon. Oh, they missed 2 quick attacks, so, I mean... Ooh, they protected Amoonguss. Nice play. Quick attack? They just went for Hyper Voice. Well done, well done. Yeah, this was an example of a game that I think was kind of poor play on my end, but at the same time, it was my opponent capitalized off mistakes from my end as well. Like, when you're behind and you have a bad matchup, like my opponent did, you have to kind of claw your way out of it, and for how good our lead was, I misplayed that end game. Once again, I don't think, while a lot of you are probably looking at me not Steel Spiking to Sylveon as a misplay, I don't regret that as much, because once again, if I Steel Spike into that slot, and it max guards, then I was thinking Max Flare was just going to one-shot me afterwards. So I guess, yeah, knowing that damage calc, it's always better to Steel Spike into that slot, because it looked like we would have survived the Max Flare with the Aqua Berry anyway. So the Steel Spike, even if our max is over, like Iron Head plus whatever attack, probably KOs the Sylveon. So, yeah, at the moment, I thought I thought that the Aqua... Sorry, that we wouldn't survive the subsequent turn even with the Aqua Berry. Yeah, another position, I feel like my opponent has to go for the Max Flare there, right? Like, that's the only thing that makes sense. So, yeah, I guess it was a misplay to not just Steel Spike, because there's no, like, the setting up the... I also thought, like, Muddy Water into Leaf Storm would do enough damage into Sylveon after maxing, but evidently not. I thought with the Rain going up again, like, we could survive the Max Flare in Rain, but that also wasn't the case. So I think for what was a really good early lead, I needed to get more out of the Escavalier. Because as soon as we have Escavalier against Sylveon, Amoonguss, and Grimmsnarl, it's kind of inexcusable to lose the match, to be honest. Especially after getting 50% of damage worth of Steel Spike. So what I should have done was just Ice Beamed into Amoonguss, or Muddy Watered Steel Spike the subsequent turn, because Sylveon's forced to switch out there. I'm not in immediate danger, and I know that my opponent, if they lose Sylveon, they lose the game. So they have to switch out there, right? I can always Steel Spike into that slot to guarantee it switch. I guess Ludi attacking would have gotten some extra damage off. But ultimately, yeah, now I know that calc from Max Flare Sylveon. That's just not something I ever really see, so I had no idea what, how well a Escavalier would take that. But you live and you learn. But I guess Geysering in the end, I mean, it was only to set up the Rain, but the Rain doesn't even matter that much, right? If we get knocked out anyway the subsequent turn. So yeah, I should have just gone for Steel Spike, I guess. Alright, that was a really interesting episode. Thanks as always for watching, and yeah, well played by my opponent in that last one, especially. So leave a like if you enjoyed. Hopefully you enjoyed our time with this team, and I will see you all soon. Alright, peace.